Okay, so the plan is to get a 500-gallon propane tank and bury it right here. Okay, so first thing I got to do, and I already started, is digging a ditch over to the house. So it'll go into the house and feed our cooktop, and then we'll split it off to the pool area and feed the grill, the griddle, and the Bayou Classic burner that we use for canning, and the possibility of a dual fuel generator. So I've already started the ditch. Let's get back to work on that. That's, what do you call that thing?
Anode.
Anode. That's so it doesn't rust, right?
Well, it reduces the odds of it.
Sure, no problem. It's looking good so far, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I'm Jake from Davis Gas. I've buried a 500-gallon tank today. It's now been filled to 80%, and we know that because when we open the spit valve here, liquid comes out. That white is liquid, and it's vaporizing. Propane is heavier than air, so that propane that I just left out into the atmosphere is going to be trapped down inside this dome here. You would not want to come along with a cigarette, otherwise it's going to ignite that vapor that's stuck down in here and flash and probably singe some eyebrows, maybe a little bit of hair on top of your head. But if you wanted to get that propane out of there to decrease the odds of that safety issue, just take and wave it on out of there and it'll dissipate.
I can smell it.
Yeah, that's good. So this is your shutoff valve. It's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you ever forget, it's horrible, but you can read it here, close, and there's an arrow going to the right, and open, and an arrow going to the left. So we're all the way open. I'm gonna close it. When you close it, once you get that resistance, you wanna give it a small snug. Same with opening it. You wanna turn it until you feel resistance, give it a small snug. This type of valve you want all the way on or all the way closed, not in the middle.
Okay.
This is a vapor connection here that does not get used hardly at all anymore. It used to be on bulk trucks, had a liquid line for filling, dumping the liquid into the tank right here, and a vapor line here to equalize the pressure between this tank and the tank on the truck. But pumps are designed differently now, so the odds of that being used is very slim to none.
Okay.
This is for drawing liquid out of the tank. It also is slim to none usage. Really, most people, when they have a leak, they're very microscopic leaks, and they usually burn the gas out of the tank, then call us, and we come out and fix the leak.
We're gonna draw it out through the barbecue.
But the odds of needing to pull liquid out of this tank is very slim. This is the relief valve. This rubber cap needs to stay on here to keep dirt and things out of it, so that way, if it did open, it would operate properly. You don't want anything obstructing its ability to work like it needs to, but the odds are slim of that opening. They're usually set at 250 psi. The odds of this tank hitting that sort of pressure, because it's buried in the soil, it's insulated quite well from the infrared rays from the sunlight. So the pressure,
almost always in the shade here too.
Yeah, the pressure on an underground container is always consistently lower than an above ground container. This black wire goes over here and attaches to this stud. It's going down to an anode bag. That anode helps absorb the electrolysis that's in the soil, so the odds of this tank corroding anytime soon is slim to none. Between the coating that they put on this tank and that anode bag, neither you or I are going to be worrying about this tank.
All right, that's what I like to hear.
Yep, this yellow wire is your tracer wire, so if you needed to locate the path and the depth of that gas line, it's going to give you a general idea on where that's at.
Okay.
This data plate, the serial number needs to be legible to be able to fill this container. Once, if it's a stainless steel plate, but if it did become corroded where you couldn't read it, then we could technically not be able to put gas in it anymore.
All right.
The gauge is a percentage gauge. It's reading about 73%. Like I say, when liquid comes out of that spit valve, that's what we have to go by when it comes to that 80% level. If you read the fine print on that gauge, it will say do not use for filling. It's really for the customer to give them a general idea of how much is in there. We use it for a small bit of justification, but not much.
Okay, that's good to know.
So then we've got the regulator here, knocks the tank pressure down to 10 psi, and then so 10 psi is going into this coated copper, half-inch coated copper, and then we make a transition to 3/4 inch polyethylene tubing in the ground.
Okay.
And it's buried at a minimum of 12 inches, but most of it's going to be much deeper than that.
I think this one got about 1.5 feet.
Yeah, this trench here is much deeper than that.
There's that tracer wire, so they can find it with a magnetometer later when they're locating.
There's the 3/4 inch polyethylene tubing comes to here, and there's a T, and then we come over to a hard riser that comes out of the ground. We've got a galvanized T on here prior to this second stage regulator, so we've actually got 10 psi coming out of this T here, going to that shutoff valve, and also there's a high pressure quick disconnect over there. At a later date, we're going to feed 10 psi to a possible fish cooker, a generator, or a griddle, but all of those appliances that'll be possibly connecting to this there'll be a rubber hose that comes off that quick disconnect, and on the other end of it there'll be what's called the QCC fitting, and all of those appliances will have their regulator knocking that 10 psi down to, whether it be well, the fish cooker could run at 10 psi, but it might be adjusted down to 2 psi or less.
Yeah, so I can pretty much just hook up whatever I want.
Right, because those appliances, even that generator will have its own 1/2 psi regulator on it.
Whatever they need, they'll have.
Yep, because you'll have that QCC fitting, you'll be limited to what you can connect to it.
That's good.
These shutoff valves, when they're the handle is opposed to the piping, it's off. When it's in line with the piping, it's on. And then so this regulator is knocking the 10 psi down to 1/2 psi, which 1/2 psi is right about 12 to 14 inches of water column. And then we have a low pressure shutoff valve that feeds that rubber hose and goes to a grill. Then this gray pipe is an extension of the vent of this regulator. Any vent on a regulator needs to be 5 feet from a source of ignition and 3 feet from an opening to a dwelling. In this last hard elbow, there's a screen in there so that way bugs cannot get in there. And we come over here to that second hard riser. This one's feeding cooktop inside the home. Same thing, shutoff valve, regulator knocking the 10 psi down to 1/2 psi. And then we do have a dielectric union here. Anytime you come out of the ground with underground piping and go to piping inside a home, you need a dielectric union.
All right.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. So here we go. Got the propane tank installed. It's a 500-gallon tank, 400 gallons of propane. And if we use it just for the cooktop, the grill, the griddle, and canning, it should last about 15 years, which is great. If we use it for the generator or to heat the house, it'll go, of course, a lot faster. So are you thinking of installing a big tank, or maybe you have installed a tank and got any questions or comments? Leave them in the comment section below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. And that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.